Hello and welcome back to the Andrew Haines Show. In today's episode, we had the pleasure of hosting sports business legend Murray Cohn. Murray started his career as a sales intern for an indoor soccer team, then held a brief career in the NHL with the Minnesota North Stars, and further continued his career as the senior director of ticket sales for the Orlando Magic. He then worked in the front office of the NBA as the vice president of ticket sales, where he was heavily involved in their TMBO group. Most recently, Murray assisted in the launch of the Alliance of American Football and is currently the president of NC Sports Training and Consulting, where he's been a sales consultant for over 120 sports teams and leagues. Needless to say, but it was a pleasure having Murray on today, and we hope you enjoy.
All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to, the Andrew Haines podcast. I'm here with Murray Cohn, legend in the sports world. Been around the world a little bit in the last few seasons. So I want to let Murray kind of give you a little bit of background on where he's been and what he's up to. So Murray, if you can walk us through kind of that start, and there's a few areas that I definitely, when you're done, I want to go back to because I heard that we have some good connections, with some other past lives. So.
Absolutely. So I've been in the sports business for 30 years. I started in indoor soccer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And how that started was I was a junior at Robert Morris University. College professor came up to me and said, "Hey, I've got a sales internship at an indoor soccer team in Pittsburgh." And I'm like, no way. No thanks. I don't want to be in sales and I don't want to be in soccer. I want to be in marketing for the Penguins or the Steelers. That's what I want to do. He's like, no, hey, you got to do this. I'm like, no. He's like, do this. I'm like, fine. I did it, and it was unbelievable. So I got to work in indoor soccer in Pittsburgh and Minnesota and Tacoma. Then I went out to the Seattle Mariners, set some sales records out there. Got to the Minnesota North Stars, ran their sales organization, took the team to Dallas, and set up the entire organization there. And then got back in the NBA, running the sales organization for the Orlando Magic. And I spent 11 years with the NBA's team marketing business operations group, which was a phenomenal experience. And the last 4.5 years, I've had my own sales consulting company. I've worked with 132 different teams, everything from wood bat baseball to NFL teams and everything in between. So it's been an unbelievable journey.
Yeah, it's definitely some great experience in there. And, the first thing that you brought up is that pops right up. That's what I've been in the last 7 or 8 years is indoor soccer. And
absolutely. Yeah.
What league or what years were you involved in indoor soccer?
Yeah, I started back in 1985, 86 with the Pittsburgh Spirit. MISL was the league that we played in.
Yeah.
So we had the Pittsburgh Spirit, the Baltimore Blast. Good times.
The Baltimore Blast are still around, and indoor soccer is not what it was back then. I mean, back in the 80s and early 90s, there were some great crowds with some of those teams.
Yeah, I had a chance to be with the Tacoma Stars and the Minnesota Strikers, and as well as the Pittsburgh Spirit. But what an amazing organization that my general manager, a guy named Chris Wright, who spent many years running the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now he's the CEO for Minnesota United. I worked with a guy named Len Komorowski, who's now the CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So pretty amazing talent. Guy Vic Regowitz, who runs the Louisville Bats and was the chief marketing officer for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So amazing working with a small organization, how much you can do, how creative you can be, and how many great people I got to work with.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look back and, a lot of those people who were involved in that now are senior level executives with major league teams throughout the country. It was, I remember seeing someone on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, wow, you started in indoor soccer. Okay. So there is hope for me. There is hope for me.
What team did you start with?
I was the owner of the St. Louis Ambush. And
Nice.
In 2012-13, we launched that. The 13-14 was the first season, did really well out there. And also the Florida Tropics down in Lakeland.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been my indoor. I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so we had the Hershey Impact and Harrisburg Heat when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Remember going out to those games. So it's definitely a fun game. Definitely a fun
it really
game.
is. It's action packed and it's fun, and you can be very creative. Very,
Well,
very creative.
I always say too, from a sales standpoint. I mean, when you get into minor league or independent, professional leagues, if you're able to sell that, that says something. It's a tough. I mean, sales in general is tough. Independent pro is definitely tough.
No question. You're absolutely right. Totally agree.
So how did you, when you launched out your career and you were in indoor soccer, I mean, what would you have your sights set on? What were you just kind of out of school looking for that first job? Or were you looking to be a president or owner of a team in the future?
No, it's a great question. When I first started out, I just wanted to get a job. So as an intern, like the GM asked me, like, what do you want to get out of your internship? Like, I don't do such a good job. Do you offer me a full-time job? At the end of my internship, and sure enough, at the end of my junior year, I was offered a full-time job as an AE for the Pittsburgh Spirit indoor soccer team. A year later, before I even graduated from college, I was offered to become a director of ticket sales, running my own staff before my 21st birthday. So again,
Wow.
If you get in this business,
Yeah.
you do a good job, put up results, I mean, good things just sort of just happened.
So over the years, you kind of worked, in the various, major league, leagues. Do you have like, are you a football guy or a basketball guy? What's kind of your go-to?
Funny, growing up, I played football, baseball, and hockey. Those are my three sports. And of course, I spent 17 years of my career working in the NBA. So just go figure. So those are the three sports I grew up with, but the business side and the fun side can be very different things.
So you kind of went through, and then you're down in Orlando with the Orlando Magic. How was the transition from that to the NBA? Because with team marketing and business operations, that's a lot of travel, right? A lot of helping other teams. So how did you like that aspect of it as well? It seems like that's kind of what you're doing still with the traveling and helping of organizations.
So I spent 3 years with the NBA as the director of group sales for the NBA. And I sat down with my boss, Scott O'Neill, and like, Scott, like, you know what? I'm ready for what's next. And he's like, Murray, no. Like, keep the main thing. Like, you're the best in the world at what you do. Like, focus on groups. Like, that's what you should do. I'm like, but Scott, like, I can sell sponsorships. I can do season tickets and premium sales. It's like, no, focus on what that. It fired me up. So coming to the Magic, we were ranked in the bottom third of the league in every attendance category. And sure enough, in our first year there, we were able to turn it around completely. We increased group sales to a record number. We were number one in the NBA in new season ticket sales with a team that didn't make the playoffs. And super proud of what we accomplished there. And it was so satisfying to have Scott O'Neill give me an award for the most season ticket sales for a team at the NBA league meetings. And I said, not too shabby for a group guy. And he had a good laugh about that. And Scott was one of the best bosses I've ever had, one of the best motivators I've ever had, and it's taught me so many great life lessons.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best leaders in, sports and just in business in general. So, I mean, it's great that you were able to work and gain that respect and reward.
And NBA TMBO was absolutely phenomenal because, like, literally it's a chance for you to be learning every single day. Like, during my time there, I think I went to 56 different teams between the NBA, the G League, and the W. And to walk into an organization, you can tell within the first 5 minutes if they've got a good culture or bad culture. And to learn all the best practices and then take them and share them with other teams, and to learn some interesting worst practices of all time as well. So it couldn't have been a better experience.
A few years back, I looked at an opportunity in that department with the NBA, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to travel and do all that. And, I look back now knowing more about that department within the NBA, and I'm like, I kick myself every day. I'm like, gosh, that is exactly the kind of role and area that I love. So, I'm fascinated by that. And I really am fascinated by the MBA in general on the business side, especially with TMBO. I think that's such a great thing. And now you're starting to see the other leagues kind of create departments that are similar and even the AHL a little bit, on a much, much smaller scale. But it's key. I mean, without the support from the league, the teams can't maximize their success. And I think that's where some of the minor leagues, they fall short. They don't provide that service to the teams to develop them. And that's really what the NBA does with that program is they're developing talent, they're developing leadership, and, there's a reason why they're doing well.
No, I couldn't agree more. And you got to give credit to David Stern for his vision of the NBA TMBO model. Is like, we're going to compete on the court, but how do we work together and help each other on the business side and sharing best practices and best programs? The NBA has been so innovative and such a leader in the entire sports industry. That's why it's going to be really interesting to see what the NBA does during our current times.
Yeah. No, it definitely, it's going to be interesting. Back when you were, in that role, you kind of mentioned some of the good and the bad. Can you give us any kind of, takes on, some crazy stuff that you've seen out there? Maybe don't mention teams or anything like that, but, anything that stuck out one way or the other.
On the good side or the bad side?
Both, I think. I think people want to hear both.
All right, sure, absolutely. So at the Orlando Magic, we created a great work hard, play hard kind of culture. So one of my favorite programs we ever did there is we did a sales contest. Every time you made a sale, you got a raffle ticket. And on Friday, we took all the raffle tickets down, and we brought out some two-sided tape. And our owner, Mr. DeVos, gave us $1,000 in $1 bills. And we literally threw down some mats, threw out 1,000 $1 bills out there. We drew 3 people's names, and whoever made the most sales had the most chance of winning. Double taped them head to toe, and literally just had them roll around in the money for 90 seconds. We played some fun music, and anything that stuck to them, they got to keep. That to me was one of my favorite videos and sales programs.
So were you one of the ones rolling around getting the money, or what?
No, I was actually one of the ones instigating it because I was running the whole thing. But it's amazing just having money stick to your body, how that can motivate salespeople.
Hey,
one of the worst practices I've ever heard is, I won't say the team, but the team president at their Christmas party stood up and said, "Hey, I want to thank all of you for your hard work and support. I appreciate everything you've done. Yeah, I know words are nice, but what really matters at the end of the day is money. So for all of you non-revenue generating employees, come to the left-hand side of the stage. I have a check here for you. Any of you in revenue presenting positions, you've already got commission and bonuses, so you get nothing."
Wow.
And so, literally, within 5 minutes of this at a Christmas party, I'm at the league, and I get 3 calls from teams like, "Is this normal? What the heck?" The team president just recognized anyone that's non-revenue generating and gave them all bonus, and is doing nothing for anyone with tickets and sponsorships.
Well, that's one way to keep your revenue generators motivated and happy there. That's for sure.
So shockingly, 50% of their people turned over in the next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have seen that happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's hopefully that person still isn't in that position, or hopefully their leadership style has changed a little bit. But
no, they've sold the team. So
yeah.
It could be over. Yeah.
Yeah. On to new things. So after you left the NBA, you started doing, consulting with teams and training, and give us an idea of what exactly you do with teams now and how that came about.
Well, it's great because literally it's an extension of what I was doing with the NBA. So I'd go in the NBA team, I'd find out what their goals are, what's important, where we wanted to focus, and then I would either help them with sales training, I would help them with recruiting, I would share best practices, and then we would get together and put together a strategy, and I'd get them honest feedback about what the visit looked like. So I sort of already had a blueprint for what I was doing for NBA teams, but I was getting calls from Major League Baseball teams and NFL teams and NHL teams and Feld and other people like that saying, hey, could you come in here and help us? So finally, I was like, okay, I've been doing this for 11 years with TMBO. I think I need to have a new challenge. And when I had enough teams saying, hey, we'd love to have you come in and help us, I said, okay, this can make sense. So now I can control my own travel schedule. I get to work with a variety of teams, and it's really re-energized me, and it's been phenomenal. And it's been 132 different teams, leagues, and organizations I've worked with over the last 4.5 years, at least once. And the good news is most of them are pretty happy, and they have me come back year over year, which is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think one of the keys is like you've walked the walk, and I think it's crucial, for number one, credibility, and to know what you're talking about.
I agree, but the greatest compliment is when people say we see you as an extension of our team. It's not like I come in like, hey, do this, do this, do this. Like, to truly understand their situation, because every team is different. Every market is different. Every leadership style is different. So to truly understand where they're at and trying to craft something specific for them. And then I stay engaged afterwards. I don't just blow into town, do training, and leave.
Never hear from you again,
Helping them exceed their goals is like something I'm really, really proud of. So that's something that's very special.
I think that's important, especially, to get that respect from the groups that you're working with. I mean, they want to know that it's more than just Murray coming in for 2 days and, we never hear from you. And I always see you on LinkedIn, connecting and talking with, people that you're working with, because, obviously when someone is getting an award or something with a team that you've worked with, I always, hear you chime in with, some great positive things. So
I appreciate that.
It's definitely good to hear. But what would you say, like, you have kind of a specialty, or, are you, I know that you have, the leadership side, the partnership, all the ticketing, but is there one aspect of it that you feel like I'm the man at this? This is my area.
Well, I would have said it was group sales, before. I've set group sales record in indoor soccer and Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NBA, the ECHL, AHL. So, that's probably what used to be, but now it's also so much about leadership. I mean, we take the best seller and say, go lead, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Every time.
Yeah. We're not teaching people how to lead. I mean, you're a great leader. I mean, you've seen that in your career. Like, who's actually teaching you how to become a better leader? So that, to me, seems like the next big opportunity that I've spent a lot of time on that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been working on, with my journey here with the Fredericksburg Nationals now, is just, I've got a young staff and some in leadership roles, and they need a little guidance, and they're making so much progress. It's kind of like watching your kids grow up, to really see, and not everyone is willing to do it or wants to learn, but so many times you see top salesperson gets promoted and now they're managing a team and they're not ready. And so I'm trying to make sure that this group is ready and they're not thinking about themselves first. It's team first. And, it's fun to watch that. And, I know I see you a lot with ECHL teams, AHL teams, baseball teams. So, a lot of that, especially in the ticketing departments, are new to the business, within, 0 to a few years. So,
right.
It's crucial to build that.
And it's changing. These millennials are very different to manage than people 20 years ago. So you have to be able to adapt to the times.
That's the key. What do you think has been the biggest change over your career, on the ticketing side or, partnership side for that matter?
Regarding millennials or just in general?
Just in general, just in the business, because I'm sure your approach is, if you were outselling today, is different than it was in the mid 80s with, the soccer team.
No question. It's like I want it now. Like it's like what's next, and I want it now. So you have to be able to be patient, which you don't see much of, and to be able to have people understand what this business is all about. And at the end of the day, one thing about this business, it's relationships. This is all about relationships.
Yeah, no, you see that, and I'm sure that throughout your career, it's kind of like the coaching tree that they talk about. Like you see all these, disciples of who your leaders were, and now the next generation of leaders, and so on. So it's pretty cool to see.
No, you're absolutely right. And if you ask me what I'm most proud of, 88 people that I've mentored and helped in their first jobs are now vice presidents or presidents of teams.
Wow, that's
awesome. To be able to take those people and see them grow from that first conversation or that first interview, and now having them in leadership roles, I mean, that's really satisfying. That's very cool.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I saw I want to say it was probably a couple of years ago when the football league launched.
Yes.
Like, were you did some ticketing stuff there? Was it kind of consulting like with the league like that as well? Or I thought the league was positioned so well, and I thought all the teams were doing pretty well. Was that kind of the same role that you were working out in there?
No, actually, they hired me as their senior vice president of ticket sales for the league. So I was part of the executive team that helped launch the league, helped hire a number of the 7 of the 8 vice presidents of ticket sales, 5 of the team presidents. I was involved in those searches. And it was a phenomenal, to build a league from scratch.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
And the concept and the creativity, well, it was amazing.
It was cutting edge, though. It
was. But what happened is they just didn't have the investment that they told us they had. So that was the challenging part of that whole thing. The people I got to work with are phenomenal, close friends with a lot of those people. And it was a great experience, except for the fact that they didn't have the money to be able to do this the right way and give us the runway we needed to make this thing work. Yeah,
I was really rooting for it. I thought from a marketing standpoint, everything was done well. I thought, there were some great leaders in each of those markets running the teams and departments. And, I definitely can relate to, just being underfunded. I've been there myself as an owner, and it's not a place you want to be. So,
no, not so bad for all the people at the XFL too. Who just same thing. I thought they had great momentum building too,
and it's frustrating because now it's going to be even that much more difficult for that to exist. And I thought they both had great potential, and I think they were doing it right. I think they were. So,
and the NFL needs a development league. If you're not in the NFL, where do you play? They could really use a development league. So there's a need in springtime. There's an appetite from a viewership standpoint. So I still believe it could work.
Do you ever see
people in the right funding?
You see the NFL ever, kind of creating that on their own?
I think it makes sense. I just see the success of what the NBA has done with the G League. It would make so much sense for the NFL to do the same thing.
Yeah, no, you need that pipeline of players, and just from both of those leagues, you look at how many guys got signed to NFL teams. Sure. There was a handful from a bunch of teams. So so what's kind of next for Murray? What are you kind of looking at over the next few years or next 10 years?
I got to tell you right now, I love what I'm doing. Having a chance to work with teams of every different situation, from low demand to high demand to everything in between. I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing. And then I also love teaching. So I could see myself being a college professor, giving back, helping the next generation. Those are the 2 things I'm passionate about that I could see myself doing.
And you said you went to Robert Morris, right?
Yeah, I did. Robert Morris was Robert Morris College in the day.
Okay.
It's Robert Morris University now, and it's very blessed to have the opportunity to work with Dr. Bill Sutton and Dr. Sunoka, and it's been over 30 years, and we're still very close friends. And to have that from your college professors and work with people of that caliber, it's been phenomenal.
Did you work with Dr. Sutton at the MBA?
Yeah, I
as
did.
well?
And
Okay.
that was probably one of the coolest things is going from him being my professor and my mentor, my coach, and then at the NBA, I actually would sign his expense checks. So, and to go full circle. And one day in Miami, we were meeting with the Heat, and he turned to me and said, "Today, you became the teacher and I became the student." And that's one of the happiest days of my life. I mean, what an amazing
awesome.
man. And to have that come full circle, it's been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. So, I mean, that's awesome that you're part of that tree as well. You're part of his tree, and he's got some great ones.
Yeah, he's the best. There's no question about it. He's the best.
I mean, I kind of hit on the areas that I wanted to hit on with Murray. Anything that you feel, would be good from your standpoint?
No, I actually have a question for you. What are you most proud of? You've been in the sports industry a long time. You've done a lot of great things. What are you most proud of?
From a personal standpoint, or just
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Well, I mean, I think, being able to start something from scratch with little resources and, for me, it's always that opening day. It doesn't really matter what season, what sport. It's there's only so many people that understand what goes into it behind the scenes and all the work, and especially minor league or independent where everyone's wearing multiple hats. But the fans don't really see all that goes into it. And so you do all this work, and then the payoff for me has always been opening day, and I just soak it in. I love to look around at the crowd, and you see everyone having a blast, and they don't know that, the field was getting painted 2 hours before the game.
That's right. Yeah.
There was, I know one year I had we bought AstroTurf. It was for soccer, and it got tied up through city council. So it literally arrived the day before the game, had to be painted, cleaned. We had big commercialized fans on it to dry it. But again, nobody saw any of that.
Right.
They come out, they see it. And that is what really, kind of is rewarding for me. And then the other thing is just, you said it earlier, is it's seeing people that you've worked with develop and move up. So I have a few examples of someone who started with me as an intern. Then when their internship was over, they start working in the front office, and then, they get promoted, a couple of promotions, and then they go off to a bigger and better opportunity. That too is something that I'm very proud of, is helping develop talent, so to speak. And, with your sales and training stuff, I mean, I definitely want to get you in with our club up here, because, anything we can do to help develop these guys and gals, it's just going to make everything better.
Sounds great. I'd love to help you with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's stay in touch. Again, I really, appreciate it. If you've got any other good stories for me, I'm always game. I love these good stories. You told some good ones to our sales team earlier, and appreciate you coming on with those guys as well.
You got it. Absolutely. It's awesome. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep. All right. We'll see you. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to today's episode of the Andrew Haines Show. If you enjoyed it, please follow or favorite our podcast so you can get updates when we release new episodes. Take care.